Hello everyone, your favorite rational robot here, R4R. Welcome to my channel. Today's reason: early Christians were uneducated and superstitious. No matter what Christianity has evolved into after 2,000 years, it is instructive and illuminating to consider the types of people who became its first followers. This gives a clue as to the degree of credibility it possessed at a time when the grandchildren and great-grandchildren of the chronological contemporaries of Jesus were still alive. That is, while the original history of the church was still fresh in people's minds. It would be similar as looking today at the history of World War II through the lens of what people had heard from their deceased ancestors. Unfortunately for Christianity, the early followers of the faith were almost exclusively from the lower classes, mostly uneducated, unskilled, and illiterate. The character of the early Christians would probably be most surprising to modern lay Christians. The bulk of the early converts were from the lower classes in the cities. As the great historian Edward Gibbon, who lived from 1737 to 1794, summarized in The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, finished in 1788. The new sect of the Christians was almost entirely composed of the dregs of the populace, of peasants and mechanists, of boys and women, of beggars and slaves, the last of whom might sometimes introduce the missionaries into the rich and noble families to whom they belonged. These obscure teachers are as mute in public as they are loquacious and dogmatical in private. Whilst they cautiously avoid the dangerous encounter of philosophers, they mingle with the rude and illiterate crowd, and insinuate themselves into these minds whom their age, their sex, or their best education had the best disposed to receive the impression of superstitious errors. For now, it's enough to note that by and large the early Christians were mainly illiterate, uncultured, and incapable of critical thinking. Hence, Christianity competed for these people not with the Roman thinkers, but with the mystery religions. Both Christianity and the mystery religions have irrational elements which were of much appeal to such a group of people. The skeptic J.M. Robertson, who lived from 1856 to 1933, summarizes their character such: taken individually, an average Christian of the 2nd century was likely to be an unlettered townsman of the lower middle or poorer classes, either bitterly averse to idols, theaters, the circus, and the public baths, or persuaded that he ought to be, utterly credulous as to demons and miracles, incapable of criticism as to sacred books, readily emotional towards the crucified God and the sacred mystery in which were given the body and blood, devoid alike of aesthetic and of philosophic faculty, much given to his ritual, capable of fanatical hatred. It is also important to note that the great thinkers of the time rejected Christianity out of hand. It is therefore not surprising that the greatest thinkers of that age, philosophers such as Seneca, who lived from 5 BC to 65 AD, Epictetus, who lived in the 1st century, and Marcus Aurelius, who lived from 121 to 180 AD, and statesmen such as Pliny the Elder, from 23 to 79 AD, his adopted son Pliny the Younger, who lived from 62 to 114, historians such as Plutarch, who lived from 46 to 120 AD, and Tacitus, who lived from 55 to 117 AD, and prominent physicians such as Galen, who lived in the 2nd century, who through their work and contemplation had purified their mind from the prejudices of popular superstition, either rejected outright or did not consider the nascent religion of Christianity. The fallacies and deceptions surrounding Christianity were plainly evident in the first 100 years of its existence, allowing the learned class to summarily dismiss it as a fraudulent enterprise. It was only after a few centuries passed, followed by the adoption of Christianity as the Roman state religion, that it began to attract members of the landed and ruling class. However, even then it was often more for political purposes than an expression of genuine faith. The recent history of Christianity, exhibited by the decline in the mainstream liberal churches and the rise of the conservative fundamentalist Pentecostal ones, is in effect a return to early Christianity. Currently, most of the truly exuberant followers of the faith are poorly educated, scientifically illiterate people with poor critical thinking skills. Thus, if this trend continues, Christianity may well end up in a few centuries being perceived in a similar way as it was 2,000 years ago. More reasons for a reason to come. So keep watching, and remember to please like and subscribe. Peace.